Good evening and welcome to Inside City Hall for Wednesday, December 10th, 2025. I'm Bobby Kuza in for Errol Lewis. Mayor Adams has just 3 weeks left in office. He made history as the city's second black mayor after David Dinkins, but he's also the first mayor since Dinkins to only serve one term. Much of Adams' term was overshadowed by corruption investigations into himself and some of his closest allies. But his legacy also includes several achievements. Since taking office, crime has steadily fallen. Adams also championed a phonics program in city public schools, a housing program known as the City of Yes, and he led an overhaul of how the city handles curbside trash. Before leaving office, the mayor sat down for a wide-ranging interview with New York One to reflect on his legacy, his achievements, the upcoming Inauguration Day, and his thoughts on the incoming Mamdani administration, and much more. New York One anchor Shannan Ferry sat down with the mayor earlier today, and she joins me now with tonight's top story. So Shannan, this was sort of an untraditional setting for the interview that you did with the mayor.
Yeah, I mean, we asked Mayor Adams when we were doing this interview, can you give us a place that feels emblematic of your legacy and your administration? And the 103rd Precinct is something that he often talks about. If you've listened to Mayor Adams over the years, he talks about the story. He says when he was 15 years old, he was beat up with his brother at this precinct when he was arrested, taken into the basement, and that it was really traumatizing for him. So he often reflects on that story and talks about how that prompted him into a life of public service, joining the NYPD himself, eventually running for public office in a bunch of settings. In fact, it was actually the same place where he held his very first press conference shortly after being sworn in on January 1st, back when he was sworn in. So it kind of had this full circle effect. When we were sitting there with him, it's where he literally started his term, and he was ending it there with us today.
So give us a little preview of some of the topics that you covered today.
Well, we asked him about the inauguration. I mean, it is typical for an outgoing mayor to attend the inauguration ceremony of an incoming mayor. A little bit different because of the pandemic. Mayor Adams didn't have a traditional inauguration ceremony because people were social distancing. He just got sworn in. People were wearing masks. The ball drop was going on, and it was way less formal. But normally, just like it is at the presidential level, it's interesting when that doesn't happen, and we hadn't heard anything about his plans. So I asked him about that today.
I'm still deciding. I want to communicate with the incoming mayor because I don't want to be disruptive of his ceremony. It's his day. I don't want, some people are perpetual protesters. Some people would turn this ceremony into some form of protest. So I want to speak with him to determine if I'm going to attend or not.
It would be unusual, right, though, for an outgoing mayor to not attend an incoming mayor's inauguration ceremony. Again, I know you said you're going to talk to him about it, but if he says, come, you will be there?
Well, first of all, I'm an unusual mayor. I never said I was. I wasn't. And I didn't say I was not going to come. I said I want to have a conversation with him because I want him to enjoy the day.
The mayor can be an enigma at times.
Sure.
But, this has not been the smoothest handover of power. I mean, the mayor has met with Mamdani, but he's also taken some swipes at him on his way out.
Yeah, they've taken some swipes at each other. And honestly, I asked him if they have met again since that in-person December 2nd meeting, which also seemed a little bit later than perhaps usual. But the mayor was also traveling internationally. They have not met since then. They plan to do so. Here's a little bit more of that conversation about the transition and the relationship between the two of them. I think there's a bit of a perception. We talk a lot about perception and reality in regards to crime, but I'm going to talk about it here too. A perception that maybe there isn't the friendliest relationship between you and the incoming mayor. And I know how this is going to sound, but there wasn't a photo posted from the transition meeting. Again, we live in a time of social media and pictures and things. So what do you say about that? Some people think there might be a bit of tension and maybe a reluctance to really work together on this transition.
Well, I think that he could only answer what his impression is of me, and I will answer what it is of him. As one person asked me, and I said, out of all the candidates, who would you like to share the elevator with if you were stuck in the elevator? And I said, Zoran. I don't dislike Zoran. I dislike the policies. The policies are dangerous for New York.
So pretty candid stuff from the mayor. Another big question that everyone has been asking and we still don't have a clear answer to is what his plans are for after December 31st. I mean, he's talked about a lot of things he wants to do, But what did he tell you about his future?
Yeah, I asked him, will you ever serve in public life again or ever run for office again? And as politicians often do, he said, never say never. But this is the closest, Bobby, that I ever heard him to saying that kind of that door has shut. Again, said that he would never rule it out, which we often hear. But he said, you just need to know when it is your time. And I'm paraphrasing, but he's been doing this for 40 years. He said he's looking forward to, a different lifestyle. In fact, I said, some of these opportunities that you're getting that we don't know what they are, would you prefer to have those opportunities or a second term at mayor? And he said, it's interesting. People will come up to me and say, I'm so sorry that you're not getting a second term, but I don't have to work these long days anymore. I don't have to be criticized by everybody. I don't have to have the hardest job in the city anymore. So it sounds like he's looking forward to this next era. Again, to be announced. We don't know exactly what that entails, but he has expressed plenty of interest in the private sector. So in due time.
International, right? There's been a lot of speculation about
yeah.
an ambassadorship. And when he looks back, obviously he wants to focus on his achievements, crime, and some of the other things we mentioned earlier, and probably not focus on the indictment and all the scandals.
Yeah, no, look, he has said oftentimes he felt like the indictment was, retribution for him. He said he did nothing wrong. He stood by all of the people within his circle. When I asked about whether or not you have any regrets about hiring those people, he said no. He said he trusted some of the wrong people, but for the most part, he really didn't back down on anything that he had done. He did say a couple things went wrong. The subway robot was one of them, and a bike lane was another. But overall, he said he's really proud of what he did, and he doesn't say he would really do anything much different.
All right, Shannan Ferry, really interesting stuff, and you can catch Shannan's entire interview with Mayor Adams on News All Day tomorrow on New York 1, starting at noon. Now to our other top story. Brad Lander has made it official. He is challenging Congressman Dan Goldman in the Democratic primary next year for New York's 10th Congressional District, which includes neighborhoods in Lower Manhattan and parts of Brooklyn. This morning, Lander released a campaign video touting his accomplishments. And tonight he's holding a campaign launch event at the Nighthawk Cinema in Park Slope, Brooklyn. And that is where we find our Dan Rivoli tonight. Good evening, Dan.
Hey, Bobby, that's right. Nighthawk Cinema. This is the site of the launch party. And as you can see, that's the podium. He'll address reporters, take questions. And you see here, they already have pictures playing, the greatest hits from Brad Lander's career. The room is starting to fill up. You could already see perhaps the signage. It says, I'm just going to take a look. Fight, don't fold. That's the message on some of the Brad Lander for Congress signs. And that's really the theme of this campaign launch. And you heard it in the video. He's going up against Dan Goldman. And it really is a progressive on progressive Democratic primary. But Lander is coming out with some heavy hitters on the left progressive side, getting the endorsement of Senator Elizabeth Warren, Senator Bernie Sanders, and, of course, Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic Socialist. The two men had endorsed each other when they were Democratic candidates for mayor. And Lander's endorsement video really hit on those themes, that he is going to be a more fervent critic of Donald Trump, a more fervent critic of corporate power, and a more fervent critic of the state of Israel. Lander, as a progressive Jew, has been critical of Israel, as has Dan Goldman. He, too, has been critical of Israel. But as you heard in Lander's campaign video, he even included a line saying that he would not be beholden to AIPAC. That's the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. So you're going to hear those themes from Lander, even though the two men have been side by side, standing next to each other down in federal immigration court in Lower Manhattan, fighting deportations and the detention of migrants there. So earlier, I spoke with a progressive political consultant who's from this part of Brooklyn to give us a lay of the land of the kind of campaign we could see from Brad Lander.
I think he's looking to try to distinguish himself from Goldman as someone who, speaks to the emotion, the urgency of fighting back against Trump, and also speaking up on this affordability, progressive vision that I think was a big part of his success in his co-endorsement with Zohran, and, the kind of lane that he's looking to stake out.
We have we've yet to hear from Goldman himself. His campaign spokesperson released a statement saying that they will deal with Brad as a political opponent next year. And in the meantime, Goldman will continue fighting the Trump administration on his immigration and deportation policy. So you're already seeing the contours of the race here. Goldman, the incumbent, he's from Manhattan. He is a constant presence on progressive news stations. He was, before elected office, he was the lead impeachment lawyer in that first impeachment against Donald Trump. So he is going to have to make the case to voters that he is the best congressman who could take on Trump, while Lander is going to try to make the case that he has been too ineffectual and that it is he himself who has what it takes. So one of Lander's selling points is he talks about, as comptroller, how he was the first to flag that $80 million that the Trump administration tried to claw back from New York City for spending on housing migrants, Bobby.
All right, Dan Rivoli in Park Slope, Brooklyn, thank you so much for that report. We are going to take a break. Coming up, anti-ICE training sessions are growing in popularity across the 5 boroughs. We will hear from participating New Yorkers who say they're looking out for their neighbors. And later tonight, I'll be joined in studio by business leader Kathy Wild, the president and CEO of the Partnership for New York City. We will talk about Mayor-elect Mamdani's transition to City Hall and his plans for housing and childcare. Stay with us.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day, with in-depth coverage of the day's news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Tomorrow, some morning sunshine possible. Clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One. Weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum and Xfinity customers.
Spectrum TV, isn't that only live TV?
No, it's only all my favorite streaming apps with live TV.
Okay.
It's only all included at no extra cost. And that's the magic of math. Will this be on the test? Sure. Why not?
It's only one simple payment for all our TV. We gotta simplify and win. Winning is equally important.
If not, more so.
Yeah!
Only Spectrum TV, fixed TV.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of, they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning. You done with the sports section?
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. A coalition of immigrant advocates is training everyday New Yorkers on how to respond to ICE agents in their neighborhoods. Our Kelly Mena attended a training session, and she joins me now with more on that story. Good evening, Kelly.
Good evening, Bobby. And as these local New York City residents see ICE agents and their activity across the city, they're looking for ways to get involved and support their neighbors.
Shame on you! Shame on you!
Those are the chants of New Yorkers ready to respond against immigration and customs enforcement activity in the city. On Saturday, 1,300 of them packed into a church in Brooklyn to learn how to protect their immigrant neighbors and themselves from ICE.
I think this level of urgency where this could happen to me, this could happen to my friend, this could happen to my family member has gotten really, really real. And so I think that's why we're seeing so many New Yorkers come out and say, I want to do something.
Halen Choi, the co-leader of Hands Off NYC, said the anti-ICE trainings are growing in popularity. With images of ICE agents breaking down doors and aggressive enforcement of vendors, some New Yorkers say they feel compelled to jump into action.
We really want to make it as low barrier entry as possible because we know that if people have the opportunity to do something, they want to do it, and we want to make it as easy as possible.
Breaking off into groups based on their neighborhoods and boroughs, attendees were able to get first-hand knowledge on what to do if they spot or suspect ICE activity in their community.
So like a full plan of like, great, you did the documentation, you sent in the video, now how do we make sure the family's supported?
Trainees included retirees, librarians, city employees, parents, teachers, and even a familiar face. New York One has reached out to the Department of Homeland Security about the trainings and the possible risks New Yorkers take on by responding to federal enforcement action and has not heard back. But ICE officials in the past say that their operations are taking dangerous criminals off the streets. That's hardly the view of those in these training sessions.
I have not seen ICE out in the community, but I think it's only a matter of time. And I want to be ready. I want to help my neighbors to be ready.
For me personally, I don't know if I'm going to use any of this today or tomorrow. I actually sort of hope not, but I'm really, really glad to get the information so that if a situation comes up, I have it.
Others plan to use the training to help in emergency situations.
We've been interested in what to do, but we didn't have enough direction or didn't want to do something ourselves and then doing something that would actually endanger people instead of help them.
And that room there, the attendees that were there included many teachers, retirees, parents, all who are concerned not just about their neighbors, but themselves. We spoke to one woman, Bobby, that said she has a home health aide from Haiti. I spoke to another gentleman from Brooklyn who his family is immigrants, and you're just worried about their own family members or loved ones walking in the streets that they could potentially be stopped by ICE agents.
You know, the Trump administration has denounced this kind of thing, but it seems like local elected officials, including the mayor, are supportive of these types of trainings. The mayor even recorded a video last weekend instructing people on their rights if they're approached by ICE agents.
Yeah, that's right. The mayor-elect, there's a lot of these, I guess, know your rights trainings happening throughout the city because they want immigrant communities to know that they do have a voice when ICE agents approach them, that there is a step-by-step process that they should be taking and that they can't just approach them out of nowhere and kind of detain them or arrest them and take them to a detention facility. I'm sure that these are going to continue as we see the months progress and as the Trump administration could potentially step up enforcement here in the city, knowing that the mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani is going to take the helm on the 1st of the year.
All right, Kelly Mena, thank you so much for that report. In other news, 13 alleged gang members were charged today in a sprawling Manhattan indictment. Prosecutors claim the OY gang brought terror to central Harlem last year. District Attorney Alvin Bragg says the gang's takedown is part of a larger effort to make Manhattan safer. Our Ayanna Harry spent the day in court, and she joins me now with more. Good evening, Ayanna.
Bobby, Manhattan prosecutors say these 13 gang members are responsible for 12 shootings, a courthouse slashing, and the death of an innocent 16-year-old student. DA Bragg said callous doesn't even begin to describe their alleged conduct.
This brazen violence occurred in the middle of our streets.
They're known as the OY gang. Prosecutors say they terrorized both rival gang members in Harlem as well as innocent bystanders, including 16-year-old Treshawn Clements. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg described the teen's fatal assault.
They approached him to rob him, surrounded him, punched him. He was in a coma and later died.
Wednesday, 13 OY gang members were indicted, charged with a total of 66 counts, ranging from attempted murder to criminal possession of a weapon. 2 defendants appeared in court. Zakaria Kamara is accused of hiding and waiting in gang rival territory as a fellow OY member fired shots. And prosecutors say DeAndre Murray was present during the fatal attack on Treshawn Clements and was arrested with a loaded gun. Both men pleaded not guilty to the charges against them.
The violence even came to this very location.
And 3 OY members are accused of carrying out a brazen attack last January, smuggling scalpels into the Manhattan criminal courthouse, then following and slashing 2 rivals. Gang members are thought to be behind 1 homicide and 9 shootings. DA Bragg said the takedown of OY is part of an ongoing effort to create a safer Manhattan.
Homicides are down 34% year-to-date in Manhattan. Shootings are down 37%. If you take a step back to 2021, homicides are down almost 50%.
And Bobby Bragg said the gang members seemed to relish in their attacks, bragging on social media, also bragging in a music video posted to YouTube.
And that can actually be helpful to prosecutors and investigators, right? When this stuff is on social media, it helps them track people down.
Absolutely. We're seeing social media play 2 different roles in these investigations. One is social media, also videos on YouTube. They are frequently fueling revenge attacks, right? Because somebody's bragging that they were able to carry out a gang attack online, then other people get upset and then they want to retaliate. But prosecutors have been able to go through all of this YouTube video, social media posts. And Bragg said that in this case, they were bragging accurately about what they actually did, and that helped their investigation.
And, you know, Bragg is alluding to the fact that crime is down. I mean, do we have evidence that these kinds of gang takedowns are actually contributing to a decline in crime and in shootings?
Well, Alvin Bragg is saying, look, these people are responsible for 12 shootings, and now they are off the streets. I will note only 2 of them were in court. That's because some of them were previously picked up on other charges recently, so some of them are already in jail. So, you know, he's also working on the other side of violence prevention, which is investing in the community and providing anti-gun violence initiatives to try and prevent young people from getting in trouble. But for those who do, they are taking these steps and taking down these gangs.
All right, Ayanna Harry, thank you so much for that report. It is time now for a break. Coming up, the Trump administration is ending a federal student loan forgiveness program. We will tell you what that means for New Yorkers next.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of going to the theater. Onstage celebrates that excitement every week by taking you behind the scenes with the latest news and in-depth interviews of the hottest shows on and off Broadway. So grab a seat, because this is a show you won't want to miss. Join us every Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 p.m. for Onstage.
Onstage is presented by your Tri-State Cadillac dealers. Discover which Cadillac is right for you and elevate your journey.
It's only a hike. It's only made possible by Spectrum Business connecting healthcare providers of all sizes. Like hospitals relying on the Spectrum Fiber broadband network with industry-leading reliability. Practices keeping patient data safe with advanced security. Pharmacies accessing records in the cloud without fail. It's tailored connectivity solutions built for life-changing moments. It's only a hike. It's only everything. Spectrum Business.
Mom was always organized, but she started forgetting to pay her bills on time.
And she'd buy the same gifts over and over.
Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard.
At first, we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan.
Early detection gave us time to adapt together.
It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
From my time growing up in Queens watching New York One to my time reporting here, I've seen how quickly a story can change. At News All Day, we bring you the news as it's happening, from around the boroughs to local government to your neighborhood, because our city never stops moving.
Hi, I'm Shannan Ferry with the day's developing stories. But first,
stay up to date and informed with News All Day, weekdays from noon to 4.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. The days are numbered for a federal student loan forgiveness program launched by President Joe Biden. The Trump administration has agreed to end what's known as the SAVE plan, and that will affect the borrowing costs paid by 7 million Americans. Our Shannon Ryan joins us now from inside the Capitol in Washington, D.C., to break down what this means for New Yorkers who are disproportionately saddled with student loan debt. Good evening, Shannon.
Hey, good evening, Bobby. So federal data shows about 13% of New Yorkers have federal student loan debt at an average of about $40,000 per New Yorker. That puts New York in the top 10 in terms of states with student loan debt. But in order to understand what this settlement really means for New Yorkers, you do need to first understand SAVE. Now, this is a Biden-era repayment program that was rolled out with incredibly low monthly payments. We're talking about $0 per person in some instances, as well as an expedited path toward student loan forgiveness. Now, the Trump administration says that the plan, quote, would have cost taxpayers, many of whom did not attend college or already repaid their student loans, more than $342 billion over 10 years. The figure is supported by the University of Pennsylvania models. Now, that is one of several reasons that we've seen Republican-led states suing the Biden administration in recent years over the SAVE Act. Now under control of President Trump, we are now seeing the Department of Education reaching a settlement on this matter, Bobby.
So talk about that settlement a little bit. If it's approved, then what happens?
So, Bobby, for starters, they're not accepting anybody new into the program. They're also denying existing applications. And then for the 7 million Americans currently enrolled, they're going to have to find a new plan. Now, these are folks, it's important to note, that would have had to move plans by 2028 regardless under the president's signature domestic policy law. So this just expedites that timeline, though at this point the government has provided few details on what exactly that should look like.
So talk about what New Yorkers should do. Those are actually affected by this. Those are who enrolled in the SAVE plan. What's their recourse? What do they do?
So the Department of Education says that they will be reaching out to those impacted in, quote, the coming weeks. Again, we don't know that much about the timeline at this point. But if you do want to get a jump on things, a better idea of what your new monthly payments may look like, the FSA does have a loan simulator tool on their website. Bobby.
All right, Shannon in Washington, D.C., thank you so much for that report. It is time now for a break. Coming up, we will turn to Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani's housing agenda when I'm joined by Kathy Weil, the president and CEO of the Partnership for New York City. Stay with us. We are back in a minute.
My time at New York One has shown me that in the city that never sleeps, the news never stops. So as the day winds down, turn to the rush hour.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica Perkins.
To catch up on the stories that matter across the 5 boroughs, with in-depth interviews from the city's newsmakers, plus the latest forecast. Catching you up with today, preparing you for tomorrow. Right here on the Rush Hour. Weekdays from 4 to 7 p.m.
It's only a slice. It's only made possible by Spectrum, connecting businesses of all sizes, like small businesses, instantly serving up orders and inventory on the Spectrum Fiber broadband network. And factories, seamlessly connecting to farmers in the field with tailored solutions that always deliver. It's only a slice. It's only everything. Get your business free fiber-powered internet forever. Call to find out how.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakimick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. My service never stops.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our New York City community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. My next guest has been introducing Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani to some of the city's top business and real estate leaders. That included a meeting yesterday between Mamdani and some prominent business leaders to talk about solutions to the housing crisis, after which he addressed reporters.
I spoke not only about my continued commitment to freeze the rent for more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants, but also my commitment to asking and understanding the roadblocks that they have faced in building more housing across this city, and how we can ensure deeper levels of affordability, how we can partner in advocating for the resources this city deserves from the federal administration. And I ensured that my door to their feedback, their concerns, and to identifying areas of collaboration will always remain open.
And I'm now joined by Kathy Wild, who helped broker that meeting. She is the president and CEO of the Partnership for New York City, an influential coalition of some of the city's top businesses. Welcome back to the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Bobby.
So tell me about this meeting yesterday. You know, I wonder when you get Zohran Mamdani in the same room with some of these business and real estate leaders, how does that conversation go?
Well, throughout the campaign, actually, we orchestrated a number of meetings with Zohran Mamdani and the mayor-elect. And those meetings generally, I think, go very well. He is, one, a good listener. Two, he is able to communicate in a very substantive way, much more than most politicians, frankly. He knows the facts, he listens, and he has increasingly evolved. And so business leaders are hearing from him. Yesterday's meeting was on housing, and they were hearing his interest in removing barriers to creating housing, in working collaboratively with the banks to figure out how to finance housing in creative ways. So, and talking about when he talked about freeze the rent, it's, I understand we have to reform property taxes and reduce impositions. We have to look at insurance reform. So it's actually a very substantive conversation, not a political conversation, and they like it.
And this came just a few days after Mamdani said something that caused a lot of negative attention, which was the fact that he's not going to continue these police sweeps of homeless encampments, which obviously raised quality of life concerns among some people. Was that something that came up yesterday?
Well, it came up before the meeting because I reached out and said, you know, what do you mean we're going to have encampments? Because I was getting calls, is this going to be Los Angeles or Portland, and what are we doing? And no, it was kind of an unfinished sentence. In other words, he was talking about he wasn't going to proceed with the policies that way they are now. And his position was, we want to make sure we find permanent solutions to homelessness and not just move people off of one site where they just go to another site and don't have a solution. So I think it was, once explained, it was not that we're going to put up with having encampments of homeless people around New York City. It's what we're going to figure out a solution and work together to do that. And I think that's what he's been talking about with his Department of Community Safety, that these are not problems that we should lay on the police department to solve. These are larger problems that involve often mental illness and poverty. And there's other ways that we're going to solve these problems. So I think that was a smart way to approach it.
By the way, worth mentioning that you're part of the transition team as Mamdani looks forward to taking office. So, you know, you've obviously been spending a lot of time with Mamdani in another meeting tomorrow, right, on the topic of universal child care, which I gather is an area of commonality with a lot of people, even in the business community.
Well, I think the business community basically totally shares the priorities of both affordable housing and affordable and accessible childcare. So as employers, these are top of mind. You know, employers in New York City, because of the high cost of living here, the high cost of rent, they're paying 20–30% premiums on salaries for the same job in another location. So they're very sensitive to the issues he's raising, and what they want to do is be on the table to help solve them. I mean, I think the message of both these meetings from our standpoint, from the business standpoint, is that affordability crisis is not solved by the government spending more money. We've got to be a little more creative than that and figure out how do we work together to solve these problems, to bring down costs. Some of it is removal of red tape and regulation, but a lot of it is a reform of our insurance laws, which we have the highest insurance costs in the country. And a lot of that is because we bake into our laws, the way we enforce them is through lawsuits in litigation. And the cost of litigation, the large settlements and claims that come out of our courts, we're #1 in the country. It used to be Florida. And in 2023, Florida reformed their laws. In car insurance, they got rid of no-fault insurance, which is kind of a game where everybody plays because you, regardless of whose fault it is, you get at least $50,000 in New York. So Florida has shown this year, Florida's car insurance companies, the top company, gave back $1 billion in rebates to its customers because so much happened after the reforms that they were able to repay. So this is, you know, save money, bring down the cost of insurance. So there are ways. Insurance is a huge cost for housing. It's a major issue for daycare centers. So we're talking about substantive issues. How do we reduce costs so that the nut that the government has to absorb isn't gigantic? You narrow it down. What are employers doing already? Tomorrow we're going to talk about childcare. What employers are doing already. Many employers are already providing subsidized childcare.
I mean, it sounds like, when you talk, it sounds like there's a lot of agreement with the private sector. I'm curious, when you talk to business leaders, and I know you do a lot of that, I remember a few months ago you said there was a feeling of terror among those in the business community about a Mamdani mayoralty. What do you hear now? What do people say?
So the terror was the night after the primary. I was quoted in the Times the next morning. They said, what's the reaction to the primary victory? And I said, terror. They were terrified because basically all they had heard was negative campaigning against Mamdani, the socialist, et cetera, et cetera. No experience, no this, no that. Nobody talked about Mamdani, the smart young man who listens and takes advice and wants to do the right thing. I mean, that wasn't what they heard. So they were at first terrified, but as they met with him, and he reached out to me the day after the primary and said, who should I meet with? Who should I talk to? And so throughout that process, people heard that this is not a scary person. This is somebody who will listen, we can work with. And so it began to, you know, that sentiment began to tamp down. There are still big issues with the members of the Jewish community who are very concerned about his positions on Israel. And that's, I really can't go any further to say there's still big issues there. But that's, but overall, the impression of his ability to listen, learn, and work with a broader coalition of New Yorkers has reassured people. And the reaction to these meetings that we're having now are, this is a mayor-elect who we can work with.
And on the transition team, talk about your work there a little bit. Are you sort of a liaison with the business community? Are you actually vetting candidates for any particular positions in the administration?
We had a meeting last week of the, I'm on the Economic and Workforce Development Committee, and we had a 2-hour conversation about, basically about structure, not about people, and there's follow-up where we're going to follow up on people and specifics on policies, but I can't get into the substance of that. We have all signed non-disclosure agreements, so I'm not saying nothing on that.
Right. Well, we are going to leave it there. Kathy Wild, Partnership for New York City, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, it is time now for a break. Coming up, we will talk more about Mamdani's transition to City Hall when I'm joined by my weekly politics panel next. Stay with us.
In Focus with Cheryl Wills. A weekly show discussing decisions and potential solutions for issues making an impact in your community and your city. If it's important to New Yorkers, then it's being talked about here. In Focus with Cheryl Wills. Sunday mornings at 10:30 on New York One.
Your entertainment the way you want it. With Spectrum TV, all these streaming apps are included at no extra cost. So you can watch anything. Movies, series, sports, reality, news.
Here's a look at today's top stories.
Exclusive originals.
We await your orders.
And even more of your favorites with live TV. Stream across your devices and enjoy anywhere.
See you later.
Get it all with Spectrum TV.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
My father was a New York City firefighter. My mission, like his, is to serve New Yorkers in a city that doesn't stop when the sun goes down. Being with New York One since the beginning, I'm now honored to join you even earlier each weeknight. Starting at 8 with New York Tonight, we'll explore the latest news developments, followed by New York One at 10 to wrap up your day. So join me each weeknight starting at 8 right here on New York One.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. City Comptroller Brad Lander announced he is running for Congress, setting up a Democratic primary challenge to Congressmember Dan Goldman in New York's 10th Congressional District. Lander has already picked up endorsements from Senators Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, along with the New York Working Families Party. And joining me now to talk about all of this is my weekly politics panel. Laura Namias is a senior reporter covering city and state politics at Bloomberg News. And joining us as he does every Wednesday is New York One political commentator Gerson Barrera. Thank you both for joining us. So the big news of the last couple of days is Brad Lander. I know Gerson has strong feelings on this, but Laura, let me get your thoughts first, including starting with the fact that as of just a few months ago, we all thought Brad Lander was going to be in a very different place, possibly with a prominent role in the Mamdani administration, and that has not come to pass.
I mean, I think according to a lot of the reporting, Brad Lander thought that he would have a prominent role in the Mamdani administration, and there's been some reporting to suggest that this sort of endorsement that he received from Mamdani and implicit support for him to run against Goldman is a consolation prize in exchange for not getting to be at City Hall, where there was some concern, according to some of our reporting, that he would have overshadowed in some ways the younger man who was actually the mayor. It's interesting. I'm curious to see what any future polling is going to show. There's been some polling that was done in September that showed Lander had a good shot against Goldman, with like no other information included. But I'm really curious to see what voters think of this quick pivot away from wanting to be the mayor, wanting to be in the administration, and now suddenly he wants to be in Congress. And what, if anything, are the substantive policy differences between him and Dan Goldman? It doesn't seem like there are that many of them, actually.
I find it an insult to the people of the Congressional District, the 10th Congressional District, because here you have a person who elbowed his way in. Remember all that field of candidates in that primary Dan Goldman wanted, or he bought it as we're having. He's turned out to be a pretty decent representative in Congress for these times. He's sane. He's got this, you know, kind of perspective. I don't agree with everything he says, but Brad Lander, this is a guy who will try anything. Dog catcher is next for him because nobody wants him. I mean, Mamdani doesn't want him. You got to realize that it wasn't just deputy mayor. He wanted to be any deputy. You know, any mayor, he's not even getting a commissionership. That's how bad this guy is. And this is a guy who actually they brokered. They were the leading candidates. They cross-endorsed each other in order to do not, you know, rank Cuomo. And nobody wants him. I don't think he was an effective comptroller. I think he picked up New Yorker's pocket. I think he's a clown. I think he's just not he's not a serious person. I don't think he's whining all the time. The commercials, you know, what is it, Mr. Rogers? I don't even look at them because I think he's so silly. I think it's an insult to the people of the 10th Congressional District. And by the way, to the mayor, shame on you, Zoran. I don't think you should be weighing on this. Take care of building your administration. Stay away from endorsing anyone.
Well, and I was about to say, I mean, you might have thought that Mamdani would endorse the DSA candidate in the race, who was Alexa Aviles, who never, you know, didn't actually formally announce she was running, but she was the DSA candidate. Now she's pulling back and not running to make way for Lander. I mean, it's really interesting politics on the left, and also Mamdani kind of throwing his weight around already.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, the one poll, serious poll that I did see from back in September, done by Data for Progress, showed Lander with a better shot against Goldman than Aviles. But there has also been all of this reporting about the fact that there was some implicit understanding between Lander and Mamdani that you're not going to get to work with me, but I will help you out in this other way. Lander will be out of a job come January 1st because he gambled it all on the ability to become mayor and then gambled it all on the ability to be in the Mamdani administration, and now he needs something. He needs something to run for. Yes.
Laura, now that you brought that up, but just quickly, a qualified person happens to be una mujer, Latina, and he can't see it fit. He's so liberal, he's so leftist, he's so progressive with the backing of the DSA, who actually, you know, he's looking for endorsement also. They backed her, but she's got to get out of the way because he wants a job. Go for private sector. Have some respect for women and qualified women from the city council. I'm so upset at him. I don't like him anyway. I think he's a clown, but he's a sexist also. This is really misogyny at its worst.
Let's talk more about Mamdani and his transition. First of all, he got a lot of attention last week when he announced he would no longer carry out these NYPD sweeps of homeless encampments, which became sort of a multi-day story and has kind of dominated news of his transition. I mean, he also hasn't really announced a lot of appointments outside of a handful, really. So I don't know. What's your take on how things have been going with the Mamdani transition?
You know, I think they're really hunkered down right now, trying to make sure that when they start on day one, that they are ready to manage whatever crisis comes their way. There could be a snowstorm on day one. Someone could get pushed off of the subway platform and killed. A massive fire. We've seen all of those in the most recent mayoral transitions. And he got tens of thousands of applications for just like random jobs because they opened up this window portal to try and get people to come work for him. So there's a tremendous amount of governance work that they still have to do to get themselves in shape to be ready to go on day one. And I think that they've really been focusing on that. And I think it's hard to find people and vet people who are going to be impervious to outside criticism, and you know everyone is going to be looking. They're looking for cracks in what has so far been this improbably successful rise to become mayor, and everyone's background is going to be incredibly scrutinized.
I like the fact that he's told people, 179 or 172, whatever the figure is, you're not staying in this administration, you can reapply, don't hire them. They go back to Bill de Blasio or other mayors, get your own team. What I'm expecting from, and I'm seeing that, is bringing sangre nueva, new blood, new ways of looking at things, you know, following what you were promising people. I don't know if he's going to screw up or not. We'll wait till, you know, the first 100 days and see what, let's give him a break. I like the flow, but he's got to deliver on that flow if he's really going to hire young people or old people. New blood, sangre nueva, Zoran, sangre nueva. Let it flow, man. You can't keep the same people and expecting other results, man. I know you know that.
He said a couple weeks ago he is going to run a very different city hall. So let's take a quick break. I will have a lot more to talk about with my panel in just 2 minutes. Stay with us.
We have so many ways to stay connected. A single touch can bring us closer to the families we love, the friends we know, and the city we share. And Spectrum helps us keep connected throughout the day, every day. Including more ways to watch New York One as a Spectrum Internet customer. Watch Spectrum News New York One on the Spectrum News app, available on all your favorite devices.
There's an international travel plan with Spectrum that was an additional $10 a month, as opposed to paying a ridiculous amount per day for roaming fees. This literally felt like my old phone carrier was reaching their hand into my wallet and just helping themselves to some of my cash. I like having no surprises when it comes to my cell phone bill. And with Spectrum, that's been the case. So it saved me a ton of money.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Tomorrow, some morning sunshine possible. Clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One. Weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum and Xfinity customers.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. I'm once again joined by my politics panel, Laura Namias and Herson Barrero. Let's talk about the governor's race. Bruce Blakeman, Republican from Long Island, Nassau County executive, announced this week he is throwing his hat in the race. He's running against the Republican Congresswoman Elise Stefanik in a Republican primary next year. I don't know if a lot of people here in the city and our viewers find this all that interesting, but I mean, it does really throw a wrench into the governor's race next year, right?
Yeah, I mean, at what point will Elise Stefanik start to say, you know, when am I going to get my just reward for being so loyal to Donald Trump? At that meeting with Mamdani a couple of weeks ago, Trump broke faith with her there, standing next to this person who she has vowed to campaign against, painting Kathy Hochul as tied to Mamdani for endorsement of him, and his inability, Trump's inability to pick a side in this contest it's potentially really damaging to her. She will have to spend money in a primary to fight Bruce Blakeman. A suburban Republican is definitionally more moderate and represents a much larger population center that is critically important to winning the vote statewide in the race. And it's just going to divert attention and divert money and resources away from attacking Hochul. It could also force her to attack more right when she needs to be able to run as a centrist against Hochul.
And there will be a problem for her when the pro-life issue comes up, you know, and that is going to be difficult for all Republicans. And he is a pro-life Republican. He's a sane Republican from what we have.
Pro-choice, right?
Pro-choice. Pro-choice, pro-life, whatever you want to call it. It's like, it's going to hurt her because she will have to go, as you say, she can't, if she goes and says, well, I'm so pro-choice and or pro-life and whatever you want to call it, it's going to work against her in the general election should she win the primary, which I'm not sure. I don't know at what point Donald Trump is going to be or how popular he's going to be in New York, or given what he's doing. I mean, if it's an example of what he did in Pennsylvania yesterday, he's going to be talking when the economy is really being felt, and he's ridiculing people, the affordability. He thinks it's a joke. He was praising Mamdani in their meeting 2 weeks ago. I just don't understand. I think this is dangerous for Elise Trump, and Elise Trump is going to have to say, I'm not totally crazy, but she is a puppet. She's, you know, she's a puppet of Donald Trump. And I don't know if she can find her place in the Republican lane that she needs so much. She's definitely not going to get the vote from, you know, downstate. So she needs to work those particular areas. And Blakeman is strong up there. He is.
And I mean, to your point, Laura, she has been launching these vicious attacks, Stefanik, at Kathy Hochul, like for weeks now.
Yes.
And then now all of a sudden she's got to totally pivot and train her attacks on Bruce Blakeman.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's totally going to divert her attention for months. And it's going to be a very different race than what we were kind of counting on for the next several months.
And she needs to be able to fundraise, and she's shown herself to be a really effective fundraiser, but we're now talking about like splitting the pool of potential Republican donors who are maybe wondering, who am I going to give to? Who's going to be the person who will anger Donald Trump if I give to them? It could freeze the fundraising. It could paralyze it. It could hurt her there. Meanwhile, Kathy Hochul already has a massive war chest to play with. She has a less serious primary challenger who's less well known, and she can just sort of glide path in Rose Garden for the next few months. And it also doesn't seem like her affiliation with Mamdani is going to hurt her.
Let me talk. Let's in the last couple minutes, let's talk about Mayor Eric Adams, who maybe some people have forgotten about, but he is on his way out the door.
Not soon enough. Not soon enough.
He's been taking these shots at Mamdani. I mean, last week he put out this video that was sort of a rebuke of Mamdani because of the homeless sweeps. You know, his deputy, Randy Master, put out this letter this week slamming Mamdani. It's a very non-traditional transition that we're seeing as he leaves office.
Did you expect anything else from, I mean, this is a guy who just wasn't up to being the mayor of New York City. He had a different, remember, I can still remember, it echoes in my head how stupid his statement was. Or when does the hard part begin? Do you all remember that, New Yorkers? When does the real job begin? I mean, and he's a failure. So why even listen to the fact? And Zoran is too busy. He won decisively with a record number of New Yorkers being interested. If there's one thing that happened with Cuomo and him, was that they got the people out to put interest again in participating in the process. So I don't know what Eric is a has-been. He's gone. Adios. Get out. Leave before. Does he have vacation time accrued? Can we give it to him?
All right, guys, we are going to have to leave it there. Laura Namias, Herson Barrero, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. And that is going to do it for tonight's show. Thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great evening. We will see you the next time on Inside City Hall.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning. You've done with the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Your entertainment the way you want it. With Spectrum TV, all these streaming apps are included at no extra cost. So you can watch anything.
Hey, brother. Be careful.
Movies.
I've got this condition where I don't feel pain.
You're a superhero.
No. Series.
There was another murder in the building.
Sports. Reality.
Here's to a summer you'll never forget.
News.
Here's a look at today's top story.
Exclusive originals.
We await your orders.
Even more of your favorites with live TV.
Welcome into First Take.
Stream across your devices and watch anywhere. At home or out and about. It's the entertainment experience you've been waiting for. Streaming apps included at no extra cost.
What's got that, pal? Get a good look.
With live TV and on demand. All together, all in one place for you to enjoy.
It's whatever kind of adventure we want it to be.
Get it all with Spectrum TV.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of going to the theater. Onstage celebrates that excitement every week by taking you behind the scenes with the latest news and in-depth interviews of the hottest shows on and off Broadway. So grab a seat, because this is a show you won't want to miss. Join us every Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 p.m.